Hey guys, it's BooksWithBethx here and welcome to my May wrap-up, which is going to be a very interesting one because I did not have the best month this month as evidenced by my average rating. But yes, before we begin, I thought I'd say welcome to my new background. I say new, I just thought I'd try this out for once because normally I'm over there at my other bookshelf. But this one I thought I would show off some of my fantasy books and also apparently my Switch, which is just there. But you can see like my lovely Tolkien collection, which will move up to the top at some point. Got a few like historical fictions behind me and contemporaries and other bits and bobs, but also my fantasy shelf up there, which I thought I would show off because there's a few books to be added to that pile actually. Well, one book anyway to be added to there now that we've done May. So I hope your May's one a little bit better than mine. Let me know in the comments what your average rating was, because I think I've had the worst reading month I have ever had this month, which is not great, but at least it's not really put me off reading too much, although I did start feeling a bit slumpy halfway through the month. But anyway, I read 5 books and I gave an average rating of 3.2 stars, which I normally average 4.5, so this is terrible. This is awful, and it is mainly down to one book. So shall we get started? Do you want to hear about the one book that brought my whole rating down? Let's go. So the first book I read this month, because I like doing it in order, and obviously I'm just starting on a negative. The first book I read was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, which I DNF'd. And this will be a very controversial opinion because I know it's beloved by everyone. It won, was it Goodreads Choice Awards for debut book last year? But let's be honest, books aren't for everyone. Everyone likes different books. It's just how it is. If you've probably seen Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow everywhere, like I have, but if you haven't, it basically follows these two people. It jumps back and forth in time quite a lot. A girl and a boy, and I can't remember the names because as soon as I finish a book, the names go out of my head. It follows a boy and a girl, and they both love video games. I love video games too, so I thought, yes, this will be perfect. I can read books about video games and learn a lot, but no. And they decide to design a video game together. They first meet when he is in hospital and the boy has a car accident and almost lost his foot. And that's where it sort of starts, and she meets him there and they jump back and forth, they fall out, they become friends again, etc, etc. But I just didn't know. I feel like when I read a book, I need to know where it's going or roughly what it's leading up to for me to be able to enjoy it. And it didn't feel like there's any point to the story, which sounds awful to say, but basically I thought, oh, it's going to lead up to them making the first game and maybe a bit after the game, like publicising it and things like that. And then they made another game, and then they were starting to make another one, which is about halfway, and I was just like, I don't really care. And it sounds awful to say because one of the characters is disabled. There's quite good disability representation if you want to read more books around that and with more disabled main characters. But yeah, I didn't really care about the characters, and it's one of those things where I wish I enjoyed it more than I did. The only parts I really did enjoy was like learning the history of video games, because as I say, I play video games. You can see my Switch there, although I haven't played that in a while. I normally play things on my computer upstairs, but yeah, that kind of, I gave that 1 star because I DNF'd it. I need to actually do a video on my rating systems, which I might just do a TikTok on because it might differ to some other people. For me, if I DNF a book, then it's a 1 star. If I read a book that I should have DNF'd, it's a 2 star. So that's sort of how my lower ratings do. Yeah, I don't know. I know that Aaron, who commented on my video, also DNF'd it, so at least I'm not alone, and I know he plays video games too. So yeah, I'm with you, Aaron, on that one. So we'll go with a more positive one now. So this is the second book I actually read in the month of May. I read it as an ebook, but I bought the physical book straight after, and that was God Killer by Hannah Kana, which I gave 4 stars to. As I say, I read it as an ebook. I read it through my library, and then I loved it so much that I decided to buy the physical one. And look how beautiful. I'm sorry, but like, I don't know how well you can see that, but that is stunning. Like, that is actually a scene in the book as well. So I'm so glad I bought this hardback, and I obviously haven't read it, but the plan is to obviously then get the second book. I can reread this one and then read the second book when it comes out. So, you know, and yeah, there's the God Bear on the back and the smaller version of the God Bear. It's just such a good book. So what is God Killer? You're probably wondering. So God Killer is like a found family fantasy book with a really good magical system. I really like the magical system. It's a world where gods exist as like physical beings, and they can manipulate people into doing what they want them to do, especially through things like donations and sacrifices and things like that. And some gods aren't very nice. The book starts right at the beginning. Kissen? Is that the main character? Was that the main character? I'm really bad with names. Yeah, Kissen. So right at the start of the book, Kissen and her family are all burnt alive as a sacrifice for a fire god. Her and her father survives, and then her father sacrifices himself to a water god to save her, because their family were like supporters of the water god. Then it jumps forward about 20 or so years. Obviously Kissen's an adult by this point, and there's been a huge war between humans and gods and this specific type of wild god, which are like the newer gods that were trying to take control. The humans and the older gods won, and then the humans decided to kill the older gods. So there was no gods left in the world, sort of thing, and Kissen becomes a god killer. So her job is almost like Geralt from The Witcher, is to go around killing the bad gods. She doesn't kill all gods, but the bad ones she kills. She meets a young child whose name I cannot remember, who has this god sort of tethered to her, and she wants to know, because most gods are tethered to a shrine, not to a human. They're trying to work out how to separate the god from the child, so they go off on an adventure together. The god killer herself is also a bisexual woman, I believe. So yeah, she got some good LGBTQ plus representation there. If you want to read a book for Pride Month, you've got this one here, definitely give that a read. And it also follows a soldier who was close friends with the king. They grew up together, and the king is dying, and he sends a soldier off by coincidence to the same place where Kissen and this young child are going as well, and they group up together. And it's so good. Honestly, it's quite a short read, so you will fly through it. I think it's around 300 odd pages, although I read it as an ebook, so it's slightly different. Yeah, about 300 pages. And it's just so good, and I love the adventure side of it and them travelling from place to place and learning more about the world, and I cannot wait for the second book. So yes, highly recommend that. And then the next book I read, which is actually the only one I read as a physical book this month, was Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. Now this is the Illumicrate edition. It's very pretty. I'm actually due my Illumicrate book box today, the full crate. So actually that, if it comes today, then that will be out on my TikTok already. So go give that a watch. The link will be in my description on my link tree if you want to go watch that. But yes, this. So it's very pretty. But what else can I say about it? I wasn't really the biggest fan of this book. I gave it 3 stars, so it's okay. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's got good LGBTQ plus reps. If you want to read a sci-fi with good LGBT rep, then give this a read. But what is this about? You tell me, because I'm just so lost throughout the whole story. Basically, you're following the remnants of humanity. They live on this space station, and Earth was destroyed by the aliens just around the time when the main character and her twin brother were born. Those two are sort of, what do you call it, like war bred? Like their parents were forced to have them, because then they will be like quite genetically enhanced and so on. And all her life, the main character's life, Valkyr, remembered her name, Valkyr, or Kyr for short. All her life, she grown up knowing that aliens are evil, humans are stronger than aliens, and that humans need to avenge the loss of their homeland. And of course, that means anytime an alien they come across an alien, they hate them because they're naturally xenophobic. But what else can I say? So the story sort of starts when they come at a certain age, the children in this book, when they turn 17, they are then given their, assignments for what they need to do for the rest of their lives. So you can either be made a soldier, you can either be put into the nursery where you're like giving birth and raising children, essentially, children of humanity. You could be working in engineering, so you're like repairing things, or in systems, so you're like looking after the AI and systems and things like that on the space station. And the main character, she wants to be a soldier. She's like the best in her cohort. There's about 5 other girls around her age. She's the strongest of them. She's like a really good leader, and so on and so forth. Instead, she is given the role of nursery. So basically, her whole life, all she's got to do is breed and look after the children, and that's it. And she does not want that. She doesn't even want children at all, and she is not very happy about it. Her twin brother's also given an assignment, and he doesn't like his assignment and he runs away, and she chases him, and that's where the story starts. Is her trying to find her brother. It was just so confusing. I read a lot of sci-fi, and actually the next book is a sci-fi, and I really enjoyed that one. But in this, there's a lot of concepts on there that I don't think were very well explained. And actually, when I posted my review of this on TikTok, there was one other person who commented saying that they agreed the same. Like, what on earth is a jump hook? Which I still don't understand what it is. I thought it was like a grip hook type thing. Is that what they're called? You know, like the spike thing with a rope and you throw it and you can climb up stuff. I thought it was that, but I don't think it is. And there's a lot of stuff around multi-dimensional travelling and travelling between different realities and things. But because it wasn't very well explained, I think I just spent the whole book confused. And it honestly made me a little bit slumpy as well. It took me quite a long time to read this. I think it took me like almost 2 weeks. And it's not a particularly long book. It's just over 400 pages. So it's just like, it really shouldn't have taken me that long to read this. But I mean, will I read the next book? Maybe. I quite liked the ending. That was a bit I did enjoy. There was quite a lot of action at the end. I feel like the whole book needed more action throughout it, but then other people probably disagree and thought it was fine as it is. But yeah, I quite like the ending, so maybe I will read the next one. We'll see. I quite liked the examination into like misogyny around like the nursery thing, like all the leadership and men apart from the woman who's in charge of the nursery section, and yeah, that was quite good. The xenophobia, the eugenic aspect as well, of like purposely breeding children to be as strong as they can be to be able to take on the alien races, you know, all of that lot. There is also trigger warnings for SA in there, and the other thing, so be warned for that. There's quite a lot of gore and things like that throughout this, but yeah, 3 stars, suppose it was alright. So as I've already alluded to, the next book I read was a sci-fi, and to be precise, it was Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, which I gave 4 stars. I listened to this as an audiobook on Audible, and overall it's pretty good. My only issue was that the 2 male main characters have similar voices, and there's a point in the story, this is like a mild spoiler, there's a point in the story where they meet up, and when the narrator used the same voices for both of them, it was a little bit confusing, but it was okay. So what is Leviathan Wakes? So Leviathan Wakes is the first book in the Expanse series, which you may have heard of the TV show of, because that's very popular. I personally haven't watched it yet, but my boyfriend's watched all of it and he loves it. So I need to now go and watch probably the first season. I need to work out roughly what I'm allowed to watch up to. But basically, you follow 2 main characters. The first one's called Holden. He is on this sort of ice freighter spaceship that goes around and goes to asteroids and gets the ice off of them and then distributes the water around to the other other planets and people that live on other rocks in the belt sort of thing. And then while they're out there doing their job, they come across an abandoned ship with a distress signal running on it. And in this universe, if you see that, you have to go and board it and see what's wrong. So Holden and 5 others board this ship, and something's not right. And while they're on this ship, another ship comes along and destroys their ship. And that's where the story begins. And then you've also got Miller, who has been asked to find this woman called Julie. She's got rich parents and they're a bit worried about her and they want to find out where she's gone, and she is missing. And he's on this quest to find her, and then the 2 groups interlink, basically. And in this world you have the planet Earth, the planet Mars with people living on that, and then these belters who live on the rings of Saturn, I think, if I'm correct. They're all very different, distinct groups, and they all dislike each other. There's quite a lot of politics in the story. But it was a really good book. I thought it was quite masculine. That's my only little downside, especially it's kind of following Miller, who is an ex-police detective. It's kind of very like LA Noire with some of the things he says, and a little bit misogynistic at times, but it's not too bad. Not enough to like cause me any issues when reading it. But overall, I did like the world, or the universe, I suppose. I like the characters, and yeah, enjoyed the overall plot. It was very action driven. There was a lot of like space battles and battles inside ships and things like that. So if you like that sort of thing, then definitely give this a read. And I liked the examination into like the future of humanity in that angle. So yeah, overall, I gave this 4 stars. So overall, I enjoyed it. And as I say, I'm already listening to the next book, which is called Caliban's War, I believe. But if you've seen my TBR, I would already know that. But yeah, 4 stars, enjoyed it. And then the final book I read was actually a short story, and this was given to me for free in exchange for a honest review. And that is The Mandeville's Marvellous Marvels by J.E. Miller. And I actually gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. So I will go over the rough plot, because this is quite a new, or not a new book, but it's not a very popular one at the minute, but I think it should definitely have more popularity than it currently does. So basically you follow these 2 characters. They're both sort of travellers. They almost call themselves gypsies throughout the story. They don't like staying in one place for too long. It's a girl and a boy, and again the names have completely gone out of my mind. Andrew's the boy. What's the girl called? Can't remember. But yeah, they're 2 friends, and they sort of travel around and they gig for money, and then basically their ultimate goal is to go to this big city. I don't actually know where it's set, and I don't know what era it's set in either, because I don't think they have phones, but there's quite a lot of modern-y things throughout it. But anyway, as they're travelling around, they hear of this circus, and it's quite a well-paid troupe, and if you're a part of it, then you have money, and you can easily make money to then move on to the next place, and you're travelling around, so they thought this would be ideal for them. So the main female character, she is like an aerialist, so she does things on like this silks, you know, like acrobatics in the silks, and on like metal case boxes and things like that. And he is a drummer, but he's quite a different drummer to what you'd expect, and he sort of has a roller coaster built, and he's sort of drumming upside down on this roller coaster. It's quite a cool sounding act that he does. They both managed to join this circus, but it's quite interesting. There's a bit of magical realism in there, which was quite unexpected. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. The writing is very lyrical. It's such a pretty written book. I really enjoyed all the characters, apart from a couple, but you're not supposed to like them. The main characters, I really liked them too. I also quite liked that it's sort of a relationship in there, but not really. It's sort of like a slow burn friends to lovers. The relationship hasn't really started yet, but the main female character is getting jealous that anyone else is interested in a male character in the book. My only dislike is that I wished it was longer. It felt like everything was quite rushed, but also everything was quite slow at the same time. I don't know if that really makes any sense, so that's how I felt. I know there should be a second book coming at some point, so I'll definitely want to read that. And yeah, it's just, I liked it. Yeah, really good. Highly recommend reading it. I haven't read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern yet, but I feel like it's sort of similar vibes to that. So if you like that, you'll probably will like this. So yeah, recommend that. All right, and then on to some stats. So again, these are gonna be quite interesting because of my average rating of 3.2 stars this month. So I'll flash these up on the screen as always. So moods, my top 3 were adventurous, dark and mysterious, which definitely fits everything I've read. I think the only one that wasn't adventurous really would be Tomorrow. And yeah, I'd probably say all of them are quite dark apart from the first one. So yeah, I agree with that. Why wouldn't I? It's my own stats. They're all medium paced, which I don't think the Mandevilles would have been medium paced, but hey ho. 75% of them were 300 to 499 pages, so yeah, it's pretty much what I stick to. The audiobook length, there's not much point showing this on the screen because I only read one audiobook, but it's here anyway. It was 16 hours plus, which obviously would only be Leviathan Wakes. 100% of the books where I read this month were actually fiction. I need to read more non-fiction, but it's just having the time to read it. Usually I read it as an audiobook, so once I finish my Audible trial, I'll probably try and do some more non-fiction again then, because as I think I said in my previous video, I'm going to do a rundown of my goals and how well I'm achieving them. I'll probably do that around the middle of June. So yeah, I'll have more of a look into that then. Genres, so I've got all of them here, but there was 2 sci-fi, 1 LGBTQ plus book, although there should have been 2, because that one was Some Desperate Glory, but God Killer as well is technically LGBTQ plus. I don't think any others were. 1 literary, which I'm guessing was Mandeville's, or it could have been Tomorrow. 1 historical, which I don't really know what that fits under. Could be Mandeville's, could be Tomorrow maybe. 1 fantasy, which obviously was God Killer, and 1 contemporary, which again, is that Mandeville's or Tomorrow? Not sure. And then 60% of the books I read were digital, because I read Tomorrow digital, God Killer digital, and Marvelous Marvels digital. Obviously I've got a physical copy now, but I didn't read that one. 20% print, which would be Some Desperate Glory, and then 20% audio, which was The Vibrant Wakes. My average rating, that's all, yeah, 3.2 stars. I gave 1 1 star, 1 3 star, and 3 4 stars. So if I didn't have that 1 star, it probably would have been an average of just under 4 stars. So, but it is what it is. And pages and minutes. So I decided this month to start tracking what I'm reading each day. And I've got like a streak going, although it's a little bit tricky because sometimes I am reading past midnight and obviously then it falls into the next day. So I have to like try and adjust it a little bit. But as you can see, like everything I've read here, the audiobook one isn't very accurate, but normally I only listen to that when I work out. So I just need to remember to update that each time. But yeah, you can see that graph here and just see my spread of when I read. I try and read every day anyway, regardless. It's very rare that I won't read a book one day, which did happen on 2 days last month because I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I got very, 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 very drunk and didn't read that day. And then the next day I was very, 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 very hungover. The last thing I wanted to do was lay there and read a book. So yeah. But yes, that is my wrap up for May, not for June, for May. Interesting month. Really need June to be better, and it should be based on a few books that I mentioned in my TBR there, which I'll link above if you haven't watched it yet. But based on a couple of those books, there should at least be 1 5-star in there, if not 2. But I have got 12 books to read on that list, so we shall see. But the book I'm currently reading, actually, I think will be a 5-star. So yeah, there definitely will be at least 1 then, unless that goes badly wrong at the end. But I hope you had a better reading month than I did. Let me know in the comments what you read this month and if you recommend any of them as well, because then I can add them to my TBR for future months and I can give them a read too. But yes, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.